I'm going to talk more about what I envision for the future. Because if you folks like my dreams, then maybe you'd be willing to support them, if only with your attention. So, for about 2 years, over a 3.5 year time span, I was living in my car. I was struggling to make ends meet, and what I discovered during that time is that we, in this part of this country, lack community infrastructure. It's just not really there. You can get food stamps and potentially emergency housing, some emergency assistance. But in general, if you are able-bodied, there isn't like a work trade kind of situation to jump into. And they exist, but it's usually like, we'll let you stay at our farm in exchange for some work. As far as like being able to pay other bills, there isn't a lot of that going on. So what I envision is a business, and the business runs off of work trade. So essentially you have like a hostel kind of situation, HOSTEL. That's a large facility with a lot of beds, laundry and kitchen, and shared communal living space. And the way that this business would operate is that you would have, to start, a basic cafe market kind of situation going on. And people could stay at the hostel and get paid in exchange for labor. And that could be working in the cafe, working in the market, working in the laundry area, custodial work, that sort of stuff. And within this facility, there's also a garden, a community garden type of situation. Within this facility, you would utilize hydroponics, aquaponics, that sort of thing, to produce as much food as you can with as little space as you can. And that food would be sold at the market and used in the wares of the cafe, right? So you've got garden, market, cafe, all in the same facility, where there's also like shared living spaces. And there would be a vetting process for bringing people in. But essentially, like, if somebody's able-bodied and they demonstrate that they're trustworthy and reliable, you would have simple processes for this. Like, you do an evaluation, you interview them and maybe have like an extensive questionnaire, whatever the thing is, run a background check, whatever you got to do. But it wouldn't be difficult to get people in who were capable and would rather do that than go work at some random organization that may not necessarily be operating from high principles and intentions. They may be profit oriented, like many businesses are, but this business I'm talking about, this work trade facility, profit's not the primary focus, right? The focus of this facility is the greatest aggregate benefit that can be yielded to everyone that the organization touches. And that's not just the people that come in and work there, but everybody who does business there. So that's something that I think about pretty frequently. So if that sounds wonderful to you, then me pay my bills and get the funds together to get it started. Easiest way to support me is to book a session with me. I'm a holistic life coach. I help people to get coherent about who they are and what they want and help them realize their dreams. There's a link on my profile, and I am currently offering free 20-minute introductory sessions. So, got nothing to lose. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being. Take care. Blessings. So I was surprised to get a fair amount of engagement on the video that I did yesterday, talking about one of my dreams. And so in light of that, I just wanted to expand on that idea a little bit. Some of the points that were mentioned were very important points in the comments, I mean. And so I just wanted to address those specifically. The first one is how do you ensure that the business isn't exploiting people? Well, that's easy because I'm the one who's running the business, and I know how important it is to be very, very coherent about principles and intentions. So in the foundational documents of these facilities, you have to be very, very explicit about what the principles and intentions of that facility are, and use very descriptive language when talking about like what do these principles and intentions actually mean, like on the ground. What does that look like? The other thing is I just wanted to touch on the potential here, which is that if you have a facility where what you offer is to provide housing and food and clean water for everybody who works there, then you are potentially offering more than what big corporations are offering. Because like, even if you get a decent paycheck from some company, that doesn't ensure that you're going to be able to afford housing. I mean, have you seen the cost of housing these days? So if you can have it be part of the offer that, hey, if you come work here, we'll put a roof over your head and feed you and clean water, and then we'll pay you on top of that so that you can pay your bills and save money. How many people do you think are going to leave their regular jobs where their paycheck isn't necessarily enough to cover their expenses and come work for you, where housing and food and shelter is part of the work agreement? There's a potential here that if you make these facilities more and more robust, like that the more robust the community infrastructure becomes, the less costly it is to facilitate meeting people's basic needs. So like initially it might cost X amount to support the people that work there. So you'd only be able to pay them a little bit more on top of meeting their basic needs. But as these facilities continue to grow more and more robust, and the people who work there continue to invest their time and effort and the revenue generated from the business is fed, some of it is fed back into the business to make it more robust, then the cost of facilitating people's basic needs continues to go down. And so that becomes a more and more negligible amount of the company's resources. And so that means that those needs are provided at very little cost to the company. So the company is able to pay people more and more and more. So part of the foundation of these facilities and this organization is that there's an opportunity for people who work there to allocate some of their pay towards investing in the community, investing in the infrastructure. That you would have programs where if you invest enough of your time, and some of your pay would go into this, right? That's, I mean, your time, equates to your pay. So like, you put more work in, and you could earn yourself like long-term housing. As these facilities continue to grow, it wouldn't just be a bunkhouse, right? It wouldn't just be a hostel kind of situation. That would be like the really low cost, you only have to work a couple hours to stay in the bunkhouse type situation. But then as the facilities continue to grow, as the organization continues to grow, then you would be able to build like tiny apartments, tiny houses, larger houses, and so on. And so you would structure it in such a way where if you bring more value to the table, then that could equate to having greater accommodations, essentially like, okay, you only have to work a few hours to stay in the bunkhouse. And if you work a few more hours, then you could have a little apartment. And if you work like, I don't know, 15, 20 hours a semana, then you could have a tiny house or something like that, and if you had full-time role, there could be an arrangement for like a single family house, and if you got multiple working people, then you could structure it in such a way where the agreement is come to that, like, in exchange for this amount of labor, we get a multi-family house and pay on top of that. It's about figuring out like, what are people's needs and how do we facilitate meeting people's needs? Like, how do we, as the community, how do we ensure that people's needs are being met and that we are leveraging people's existing talent and skills to the fullest extent that we can? Because in order to get good people to continue to work for you, you have to be tapping into their skill set. I know from my own personal experience and having worked with many other people that people don't want to stay in a role if their skills are not being utilized, if their talents are not being utilized. We're here to express our gifts. So if you want to keep good people, you gotta have them be working in a role where they're able to use their gifts and compensate them well for it. Like, not just meet their needs, but go above and beyond. And that's the thrust of these communities. That's the point, is to not only meet people's needs, but generate the greatest aggregate benefit for everyone that is feasible.